Rev up your engine! Toyota Priuses, people hate them, people love them. Well, since they sold millions of them, there's quite a few people who like them. Let's see the truth about this particular one. That's 11 years old. It's got 140,000 miles on it now. She bought it new, put it all on. Now what has she done? Well, she's changed the oil regularly. The only thing that she really had to do was change the brake pads, and she just did that. It's got 140, she did it at 136 or so. Because regenerative braking, the brake pads last longer. It's still got the original hybrid battery in the back, and it's obviously still working fine because normal driving, she's getting 45 miles a gallon in this thing. The biggest symptom of a bad hybrid battery in these is your gas mileage starts dropping. She's still getting the same gas mileage, so it's still working. 140,000 miles, 11 years later, and they're pretty well-made vehicles. There's no arguing that. There's your high voltage system with the orange wires to warn you it's high voltage. Don't be fiddling around with that stuff unless you know what you're doing and you got electrical gloves to wear when you're working on them. And there's the Atkinson Cycle 4-cylinder gasoline engine. Now, truth be told, some of these engines do blow head gaskets. But from my experience, it's generally the people that do not take care of the engines. She changes the oils religiously and the filter, and she doesn't have any problems at all. If you push one of these, the dirty oil wears out the inside of the engine, your head gasket blows, you're looking at a small fortune because, like I said, it's not a normal 4-cylinder gas engine. It's an Atkinson Cycle engine. Hardly anybody will even work on them outside the dealer. Some of these dealers are going to charge $5,000, $6,000 or more doing a head gasket job. They can last a long time. This thing doesn't burn oil, gets 45 miles a gallon, but she's taken care of it. She's the original owner, and she hasn't had any problems with the engine system or the battery system. You can see almost everything on this is original equipment. She hasn't had to change much out. Now, as we go inside, the AC still works. The heat works. She's got 139,973 miles that she put them all on herself. As you look in the back, she's turned it into a little camper. She's built that, and she fits in and has a nice little bed, and she goes around the country camping in this thing. Everything works. Even the old-fashioned CD player. There we go. It's got a CD player. At least it doesn't have a tape deck. It's a little more modern. You can run EV mode. It won't go very far in EV mode. It's a little hybrid battery. It's made for boost, not for pure propulsion. And then, of course, you can go eco mode. That a lot of people do because they want to get the best gas mileage. I'll tell you it's an eco mode, but you can also go to power mode if you want to go a little bit faster. This being a 2012, it's not a racehorse. It goes where you want to go. But realize, the new 2023 Prius has 196 horsepower. So it's a lot faster than this thing is. It gets a little bit better gas mileage. That is phenomenal technology. But the gas mileage that this gets, it cruises on the highway all day long. You don't have to worry about that. You're not going to win any drag races, but you'll win the race of time because you're going to get really good gas mileage with very little maintenance. Like I said, she's done nothing but change the front brakes one time with the high mileage on it, 130-something thousand miles, and change the oil all the time. They are well made. As you can see in the door, they're made in Japan. Always check that out. Don't read the stuff on the top. It'll either say made in Japan or look at the VIN number. This is J. J means made in Japan. By everything I can see, she's had really good luck with this vehicle. But, of course, the computer never lies, so we're going to hook it up and we're going to see what's going on electronically. Now, it may be a hybrid car, but it's got the same OBD plug as any other car. Knows what Prius it is. And we're off to the races. Do full diagnosis, auto scan. Find a few problems here. It's an old car. We'll start out with the tire pressure monitor. Data from transmitter 1 not received. Well, she already warned me about that. She's got a bad tire pressure sensor, but the Toyota dealer told her it was going to be around $250 each. That's 1,000 smackers if she's got to replace all 4. So she's got a tire pressure gauge and measures it. Realize there's batteries inside the transponders in your valve stem assembly. You got to take tire off, take tire apart, put a new one in, reprogram it, all that crap. Times 4. Are you really going to spend $1,000? Because they're all going to break. The battery lasted 12 years in the left front one, and now, hey, the other ones will probably go out too. Who wants to spend $1,000 for that? It's just stupid. This one is a right rear door motor. We'll see what craziness that has. Power window switch of right rear door fault. Well, there it is. It goes up and down, so do we really care? No. And the last code is a smart key that has 3 faults. We'll see what that is. Antenna coil circuit. Lost communication with panel cluster control module. Well, we'll erase those too, just to see. You can often get codes for your wireless transponder for starting a car. That's just how they go. As you can see, we push the button. Starts right up. You can hear the fan blowing. It doesn't start because it doesn't need to now. It's on the electricity, but it's working fine. How we can tell that is we put it in reverse. It goes backwards. There, now the motor's on, so it starts it. You can see we erased all the codes. See what happens after a road test, but we'll look at the live data here for the engine and the transmission. Go to the live data when it pops up, and here we go. Coolant temperature's normal. Now here's one thing that I gotta warn you about hybrid cars. Is, since they're hybrids, they're often turning themselves off when they're just sitting there. The engine turns itself off, but the system's still live. One, you wanna make sure the parking brake's on when you work on it so it doesn't start up and run away on you. And two, if you want to analyze good live data, you got to have a good machine like this Sawtell, because since this thing's always turning itself on and off, it's going to be very hard to analyze the engine system just sitting there because it'll keep turning itself off. And you're not going to get the right fuel trim and the milliseconds of the injector firing because the engine will turn itself off and that data will be at 0 because it's not running. So it is harder to diagnose these things. You got to do a lot more road testing because the engine always is going to be running while you're driving it down the road 40, 50 miles an hour. Just realize they are harder to work on. So the guys that know how to work on them, they are going to charge you more money to work on. There's a lot more work involved in analyzing them and repairing them. Although I do have to say, if you do change the oil and you don't allow the head gaskets to blow, these Atkinson hybrid engines are solid built by Toyota. They can last a really, really, really long time. The average engine speed, all 4 cylinders, exactly the same. 51,199, every single one, running perfectly. So let's close the hood and take it for a spin. Notice on this Prius, it's not dragging on the crown because she had Toyota put a lift kit on it, so now it's higher, as you can see. It is higher than the average Prius. She does take it off-road camping, and really, you got to consider, she's had it lifted, but she's still getting 45 miles a gallon, and so it didn't really affect the gas mileage all that much. We just put it in reverse, and you see it automatically turns the electric parking brake off. Now it's older, so there's no backup camera, so we got to look, and off we silently go. You'll see it's on battery power now, but as soon as we step on the gas, 15 miles an hour, there goes the engine. The engine's kicked in. This isn't made for running on electricity very far. It's more for sneaking up very short distances. Now, since this thing is a little bit higher, you don't have to worry that much about medium-sized speed bumps like you do in a regular Prius. It's very low to the ground. You can often rip the plastic off in the front. And of course, it's a hybrid, so it has regenerative braking. You can hear it. That's the regenerating power. And of course, it's always going to turn itself off when you come to stops when it's charged up. All the electric cars by law today have to make noise, and a lot of the hybrids have to make noise, but this is an older one, 2012. They didn't have a law then, so you can sneak up on people. When this thing is driving down the road slow, it doesn't make any noise at all. By law, it didn't have to. We'll see what it does on our little drag strip. Nobody's coming. And we'll look behind us. Nobody's coming. So we can stop. Let's put it in power mode for speed. Here we go. Not a race car, but let's see what happens. Okay, we're going 45, now let's floor it. Can you pass people on the highway? Yes, you can. Look, it went from 45 to 60 relatively quickly. But I do advise, if you're planning on doing any kind of higher speed driving, put it in power mode. Once you get to regular speed, it gets the same gas mileage. It'll just pass better, and you'll be able to do better maneuvering than you will if you're in eco mode. If anybody has a new Prius, contact me, ScottyKilmer@gmail.com, and I will gladly test it out, make a nice video about it. I'd like to see the difference. All in all, considering she's got almost 140,000 miles on this thing, change the brake pads once, an oil and filter, and that's it. I mean, you can't complain. She only paid like 21,000 bucks for this car when it was new. And the corner's perfectly fine. They're fun little cars to drive. Now, because they always want to get the best gas mileage possible, they are a little bit louder inside because there's not much insulation put into the car, because insulation does cut down on road noise, but it also weighs more, and it will cut down on gas mileage. Now, only a little bit, but a lot of people that drive these cars are fanatics, and they want to get the absolute best mileage they can, so you kind of sacrifice a little bit extra road noise for better gas mileage. And I kind of like the split back screen, so you can see behind you. It made it wide. A 12-year-old Prius with almost 140,000 miles from the original owner, so we know the whole history of the car. All it had was front brakes done and a bunch of oil changes. It still runs about exactly the same. It still gets the same gas mileage that it always got. It doesn't burn oil. It gets my head scratching. Why is everybody pushing this electric car crap? Why don't they make more plug-in hybrids, which would make more sense to me? You get a car like this, put a much bigger battery in it, so you can drive, say, 40 or 50 miles, and then it would be an electric car for whenever you need it and you recharge it, and then when you need to take a trip or the battery goes out, it runs on the regular motor, and you can drive wherever you want. To me, that makes a lot more sense. When you're in a bad electrical infrastructure, drive it on a gasoline engine. Then when you get to where there's more charging stations, you can charge it up. Now, this isn't a plug-in hybrid. This is a regular hybrid, so you never have to plug it in. It just charges itself up driving around, running off the motor, running off the regenerative braking. But to me, it would make a lot more sense to make a lot of plug-in hybrids, right? 40, 50 miles a day, back and forth to work, charge them up, and in a year, they said, oh, they bought a couple of tanks of gas, because every once in a while they use the gas, but they mainly plug it in. Probably won't come to fruition because the government people don't like the idea of still having gasoline engines and electric motors. To me, it makes a lot of sense. And this Prius, hey, she paid like 21 grand. She's put hardly any money in it, camps in the thing. She got a heck of a deal on that. Most of my customers that got rid of these, this says 139, they'd have like 239 on it. And who could complain if you got 239,000 miles out of a $21,000 car? You really can't argue that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.